Hello and welcome to Fact Files. On the 27th of March, the Reserve Bank of India said that all lending institutions, including banks and housing finance companies, will have to give borrowers a 3-month moratorium on term loans. This was for all installments that were falling due between the 1st of March 2020 and May 31st, 2020. Now, this would include, the Reserve Bank had said then, that principal and interest component, bullet payments, EMIs, and credit card dues. Now, the question that many people have been asking and trying to get some clarity on, or more clarity on, is how does this actually play out for you and me as people who have either taken a loan or have credit card dues? So to answer this question, I'm joined now by C S Setty, the Managing Director at State Bank of India, who looks after retail and digital banking. Mr. Setty, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So first question is really this. Of course, the announcement happened on the 27th of March. We are now in the first week of April. So how is this playing out? So what does this announcement of a moratorium mean for either a credit card user and a loan borrower from your bank or any bank for that matter?
So let me just address the loan borrowers first. The loan borrowers first need to understand, I think, there is an unfortunate misconception that the moratorium is a waiver. It's not a waiver. I'm not saying about all the people. I think some of the people thought that the interest waiver is there, or the principal EMI waiver is there. I think let us first address that issue, that it's not a waiver. It is essentially to take care of the cash flow mismatches, because there has been a lockdown. And there have been some, businesses are stopped. To take care of that, what RBI has done is that in respect of all term loans, the installments and interest can be deferred. Why it is called moratorium? Suppose if you don't pay an installment, it will be considered as a default, right? And the default gets reported to the CIBIL and the credit score gets impaired. They say that we are giving a moratorium even if during this period, the installments falling due between 1st March and 31st May, if the customers are unable to pay, even then their credit scores will not get impacted, number one. Number two, the banks are not required to see whether it is a special mention account, whether it is a non-performing asset. Those norms are also not applicable to these installments and interest which is deferred. That's the reason it's a moratorium which is kept. And so is the case. They've further subsequently clarified that this is applicable to the credit card dues also. That means during these 3 months, whatever the dues which are payable to the credit card will get deferred at a later date. What is this later date? I think if you think about later date, the credit card companies, I'm not commenting. I think each of them is following a different methodology. And we don't have credit cards within SBI. It is a separate subsidiary. But let me talk about the loans. If you have a housing loan, if you have a personal loan, the EMI will be deferred by 3 months. In the sense, if you have a 148 months EMI, the EMI will be extended by 3 months. That is, it will become 151 months. But you must also understand that the interest which is not paid for these 3 months will also get added to your liability, in which case the number of EMIs would further be increased. That is the reason I think you are coming in the press that the EMIs for a loan may be even 8 equity months installment, right? So why does it happen? It happens because we are assuming that during this 148 months, the additional interest which is applied to your account is not paid by you by accelerated payment. Normally what happens, somebody who has got additional cash flow going forward, he will pay off this additional interest whenever he has got excess money. In which case we are not assuming that it runs the full period of 148 months. So the outer limit, what we are saying is that assuming that the interest burden of these 3 months, which is going to be added to you, if you don't pay any of that amount till that 148 months, that means it runs the full course, then the additional EMIs will kick in. Otherwise, if you have an additional cash flow and you are able to pay that off in next 6 months, next 12 months, the liability of interest will not be so significant.
Right.
That is what needs to be understood.
Right. So two questions. So effectively, apart from the fact that my credit score will not be affected, or my loan repayment, let's say, let's say my loan repayment record will not be struck down, or I get a negative rating. Apart from that, there is really no impact of this announcement. Would that be a correct statement?
You mean to say negative impact?
Yes.
Negative impact on the credit score is absolutely not there on account of this moratorium.
No, so my question is, apart from the fact that there is no negative impact on either my credit score or my loan behavior record that you will have as a bank, there is no other impact of this moratorium announcement, is my question.
Obviously, the impact will be on the additional interest cost.
Mm-hmm.
Just take an illustration. For example, you have an EMI of 50,000 rupees a month. That means 1,50,000 rupees for 3 months you are not paying now.
Mm-hmm.
That 1,50,000, 3 installment will be added to the number of installment which you are going to pay. But these 3 installments, 3 months interest also is not being paid, right? Whenever EMI is paid, some part will go to interest, some part will go to principal.
Yeah.
If somebody has a ballpark figure of 1 lakh rupee loan, which carries 10% rate of interest, so every year he pays 10,000 rupees interest. I'm not compounding and all.
Yeah.
And for 3 months it would be, say, 3,000 to 3,200 rupees. By not paying the EMI, this 3,200 rupees liability is going to be added to you. And this 3,200, assuming that you are not going to pay in the next 148 months, that full tenor of that, because of the compounding, it actually becomes significant amount at the end of the tenor. So that is the reason we have advised to all our customers that if you do have regular cash flows, and you don't want to pay this additional cost of interest which is going to be added, it is better to pay the equated monthly installment. It is better to pay the installment.
Right. So
I don't know whether I made it clear, or are you still?
Yeah. It is clear. Essentially that really it's you don't really benefit except that your credit card, your credit rating dues will not be, credit rating scores will not be affected.
Govinda, I think we also must understand the purpose of this moratorium is that you put additional cash in the hands of the people who require it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. If you need cash, you can you can stop paying the installments, but you don't have to worry about your credit history. That is the purpose of the moratorium. But if you have enough money to service this, it is better to service.
Right. So, let me put the question a little differently. So sometimes people miss payments. For whatever reason, maybe the salary didn't hit on time, there was some other problem. Now, how is that situation different from this one? Considering that there too and here too, you are going to be paying that added interest or penalty later.
Yeah, if the moratorium were not there, if you don't pay or miss out on a payment because of various reasons, number one, of course, your credit history gets impacted. It will be shown as the default to the credit information companies, right? Number two is that internally, banks also will probably put some penal interest, because and most of the banks have agreed that this moratorium period will also not attract penal interest. And number three is that if you have given your bank an instruction monthly and you are not able to pay, even those penalties are also waived. So I think the host of benefits which are available under the moratorium is that if you don't pay also, your credit history is not impacted. If you don't pay also, your loan account is not considered in default by the banks. It will not be considered a special mention account or a non-performing asset for 3 months, right?
Yeah.
That's very important. But whether you want to choose this deferment or not depends on your cash flow situation.
Right, and you clearly said that your recommendation is that people should pay up if you can, because the compounding effect of that interest that will accumulate in this period is something that you don't want to necessarily be faced with.
Yeah, but I also would like to tell them that in case if you are forced to avail this, you must be, as soon as your cash flow improves, you must make an accelerated payment towards this so that your interest is reduced.
Right. Okay. So now, what about the back end? I know that some banks have started sending out mailers and saying that, do you want to opt into this and so on. So is your back end, one is, of course, allowing people to opt in, but, later, suppose I get the money in 1 month or I pay after 3 months, is the back end system ready to accommodate all of this without any, spillovers or some surprise that may hit me later?
See, 2-3 situation what we anticipate is, suppose you have cash flow and you do not want to use this deferment. See, I think again we may have to understand that the moratorium, at least in SBI, we have given across the board.
Right.
That every account is put under moratorium. Even if you do not pay, your credit score will not impact, your asset classification will not impact. But if you have given a ACS mandate or a standing instruction mandate, and if you want it to be continued, you don't have to do anything. You simply,
Right.
You don't have to originate anything. Your installment will be recovered as usual. But somebody wants to not avail this deferment, and he wants that standing instruction has to be stopped, or his ACH has to be stopped. He has to give a mandate to the bank. Please don't put through my standing instruction, right? The assumption is that by default people would like to pay. That is because we don't want people to pay additional interest. But if somebody wants to avail this facility, they only have to send an email that please don't put through my SI.
So a quick question here. So what's the response that you've seen at this point? I know we're still first week of April, but have you seen any, or rather, what is the level of response that you've seen?
I think, up to 1st May, anyway, 1st April, we were not working, right? 2nd April, a lot of states had a Ram holiday. So we will see, I think by Monday, we'll have a clear picture how many people actually want to avail this. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. Okay.
And I think I'm not finished on clarifying position. Is that the standing instruction ACH, which will people ask for, stopping temporarily, can also avail this facility. The third category is that somebody, has paid the March installment. If they want to take that amount also because they need that money, they can exercise that option too. As far as the back end thing is considered, many banks, including SBI, will need some time to put this transaction. It is not an automated facility that you debit your home loan and give money back. Most of the systems are not geared up for that.
Yeah.
So people have to be a little patient. It takes about 7 to 10 days because we have to put through these transactions manually and give the money back to them or take out the standing instruction. Okay.
Right. So this will take a few days. Okay. Last question, Mr. Setty. The Reserve Bank on the same date also cut interest rates. So the repo rate was cut to 4.4%, and the reverse repo has also been cut. But the repo has been cut, which is essentially interest rates have been cut. So now one part of my as a loan borrower, my interest is obviously in this particular thing to do with whether there is a deferment or a moratorium. But the other part is, of course, interest rates. I mean, are interest rates going to come down or likely to come down as they get transmitted by banks like you?
Yeah, I think the transmission will definitely happen. At what level the transmission will happen? As far as SBI is concerned, we have a product, external benchmark linked rate, where we have passed on the total 75 basis points interest rate reduction in a product which is linked to the external benchmark. But overall, in the universe of banks, external benchmark linked loans are limited, because the rates are volatile. Many people have not opted for it. MCR reductions I come to know in the next week, because most of the asset liability committees will meet from Monday, Tuesday. And I expect that, there will be some reduction in MCLR. What level of reduction, of course, is too difficult to assume, but I think the transmission will happen.
Right, Mr. Setty, thank you so much for sparing your time and taking us through the fine points and also explaining to us how the moratorium and deferment will work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Govind. Thank you.